this computer. Did you guys get a notification I'm recording?
Yep, we're good.
We did. All right,
Yes,
thank you.
we got
Sorry
it.
about that. Thank you, Thomas. Yep.
All right, so just wanted to
no.
check
Go
again.
ahead.
Are there any changes to the agenda at this time? Anyone? Okay, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
All right, a second?
I second that motion.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All right. Agenda has been approved. So now we will review and approve the minute meetings from our last meeting, and the minutes have been provided to you. Are there any corrections that anyone has at this time for the meeting minutes from last meeting? All right, I'm going to take the silence as a no. If there are no further corrections, may I have a motion to approve the previous meetings minutes?
I'll motion.
That was Kim. A second?
I second.
Thomas seconds.
All right, Ashley, seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, minutes have been approved. Okay, is there any other additional action items at this time? Or are we ready to move on? Move on? Okay. All right, so we're now going to move to the discussion items on our agenda, which means I'm going to kick it over to Jay for the principal's report. Did I do that right? Am I missing anything?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you. And just so the GOteam knows that we do get it. GOteam used to be a place when, and I will say, like, we had a little flexibility in what we talked about, and I was able to come in and kind of present my own. It's very structured now, and I get a PowerPoint template that I have to fill out and review with everybody. And that is so what I'm doing is trying to kind of give you the information that our GOteam asks that we share with you all. But then always, as a reminder, we can add any agenda items onto our GOteam agenda that we need to discuss. We have a lot of visitors this period, and while we don't have public comment on this forum, we will next time, and we may want to have some agenda items on there that can either address some of that, discuss some of that, or at least provide a lot of extra time for people to talk if they want to. I think that's important. So just letting you know kind of how it works. Let me stop sharing and let me pull up my PowerPoint. Give me 1 second. Now, as I go through the PowerPoint, I'm going to share this with you all after as well. The way it always works is I will always go to GOteam first with all information. You will hear everything first from me. I'm never going to put something. I don't put any new information on Facebook or Twitter. That's all just happy pictures and stuff. But I do share a lot with our PTA in executive meetings and in parent meetings. And I also share a lot with our foundation. But typically the way it works is you all are getting that information first, and then I trickle it down to them. And I do consider PTA executive committee and our foundation almost like a GOteam. While they don't make governance decisions, I feel like having their knowledge of what's happening in the school, just like you do, is just another avenue for parent and family engagement. So that's important to me. But I want you to know that you all are always the first ones to see these types of slides. All right, let me do a slideshow. All right, thumbs up. Cool.
Yep.
As we go through this data slide, first of all, feel free to interrupt me if you're on GOteam. Absolutely, you can do that and ask any questions. The last slide has to do with feedback, kind of what you notice and what you wonder on some of the data. I don't love doing that through Zoom, but also I understand that we may need a little bit of feedback and solicit that. It doesn't all have to be done right now. But as I go through the slides, if you have a piece of paper and a pencil and something that maybe you just want to make a note of, that way at the very end, I've created 2 text boxes that I can type into, and maybe each person can kind of share one wondering or one takeaway if you want. The idea of all of this is that we review our strategic plan, we review our strategic goals, we are going to review my goals. It's called a continuous improvement plan or a CIP plan that are all focused around literacy, numeracy, and whole child support and intervention. And they have to be measurable. And then we take a look at our funding when we get it. When we get my $9 million budget, which we control every dollar of that, in February, we allot the funds that align to our strategic priorities. And that's important. Okay. So just kind of letting you know where we are. Topics. I'll let you read the slides. Adjust my screen. I'm not in my favorite office, by the way. I have to be in the primary center right now. All right. So we're going to discuss our leveling, some school strategic plans, some data. Let's talk about leveling. We are projected at 844. We came in at 871. It's a difference of 27 students. 27 students times the base weight here gives us this dollar amount. Okay. This is a dollar amount that I've received. What do we want to do with that dollar amount? Well, what I did was I allotted this amount of money for a new teaching position. The reason being, and if you look at our strategic plan, and if you look at our goals for literacy and numeracy, especially around our subgroups, with all the students we identified off of the Georgia milestones and the new MAP assessment, we need one more teacher to help with that. The good news is we still have our class sizes. We've reduced that, but we moved all those intervention teachers back into our homerooms. So we really only have like one intervention teacher that is 0.5 ESOL and 0.5 intervention in each building. So I thought I need one more. And the request of admin and them was to get one more teacher to help with language supports, primarily with DLI, just so you know, because DLI serving our ESOL students is difficult because we have to pull them out of class right now. But this teacher can push in with an ESOL certification and serve our DLI students in English and Spanish so they don't have to be missing class. But then also they can support our tier 2 and tier 3 math and reading students that do need 30 to 45 minutes of pull out every day. And right now the pull out classes are a little big. So this one person will help that. And we anticipated that. That left about $37,000, which I placed into a materials and supply line item. It's just basically a holding line item. But I want to talk to you why I did that. And I have that on the next slide. So any questions around the base weight, the overage of numbers, or anything else? Kim?
So the difference of 27, was that weighted to a specific grade or was it all over?
It's a great question. To be completely honest with you, the bulk of those students are autism students. I was not aware that we got funding for them. I don't pay for their teachers. I don't pay for their paraprofessionals. So we got 2 full-time teachers, 2 full-time paras, 16 autism students, and we got money for each and every one of them. I'll talk to you about how that money went right back to our autism students too, because if you remember correctly, I had a reserve and I reduced that in half to get another 0.5 special education lead teacher because I needed someone to help with that move-ins of all those IEPs and all those students. So it actually went right back to the students. That really only left about 11 students, Kim. Okay,
Oh,
right after our,
yeah.
And those 11 students, honestly, were pretty spread across the grade levels. Kindergarten came in right at 161. So they were one student over. And then we just had a couple sprinkled in. I would tell you if I'm lying that number is probably not a lot higher right now. That's the one thing when we start so early. We waited 15 days. I probably have another 10 kids on there that I could have gotten funding for if they had come a few days earlier. So we're probably missing about $50,000. I probably have enrolled at least 8 to 10 more kids, most of them in 3rd through 5th. And those have come in since that 15th day, but I don't get any funding for them after the 15th day.
Hey Jay, I had a quick question with the new EIP teacher, which that's awesome. So it sounds like that teacher is going to help with intervention in 4th and 5th grade, and then also DLI from you probably will get into this, but with the milestone testings, do we have any percentage of the DLI kids that, versus the regular curriculum that,
that's a great question. Yes, I'm going to show you a slide here. I don't have the milestone breakout, but I want you to see how our dual language immersion students are performing to our gen ed students. And I have that slide and I want to be able to speak that. Let me close my door real quick.
Yeah, no problem.
One other thing I want to take note of, and I know nobody knows to ask this, but has anybody noticed that this baseline for a teacher, and by the way, it's 4-5, that teacher is going to serve everyone. It's just more of a title. It's just more of a title. They're typically supposed to serve 4 and 5 grade. There's probably going to be 3-5. And if we need a little support of PC, we can do that. It's a full-time teacher certified. It's totally fine.
Good.
The base price for a teacher went up exponentially. I was very surprised to find out that it's $107,000 now for a teacher. That is up $17,000 from last year. Remember, I don't pay this an average price. We take the average price of a teacher across all of the teachers in the schools. North Atlantic cluster schools and the non-high poverty schools get weighted a little bit more because it's easier for us to find teachers, meaning that our teachers are more experienced up here. So they're actually making more money in schools like the North Atlantic cluster than they are in other clusters when they've done a compensation study. And those teachers may all be years 1 through 3, but our teachers up here are all years 10 through 15, for example. So we get weighted a little bit more, but that increase is because of the governor and because of the school board who gave raises to everyone. And everybody loves the raises, and I love them too, but they come from somewhere and they come from our budget. So I will tell you, budgeting for next year is going to be interesting, knowing that we have so many teachers now, but they're all making a lot more money, or a little bit more money. I'll say it that way. Remember, we pay for their full benefits. So a teacher's not making $107,000. But benefits are $30, sometimes $40,000, and it's expensive. So that's why that price went up, just so you know. Last year it was like 90,000. It really was. So I wanted to point that out. All right, so our initial leveling reserve, this is money that I start the school year with, but I don't touch it because it helps me manage leveling. There's been years in the past where we've been 50 kids under projection. And so I don't have to, level 2 teachers. I'm able to pay back out of this initial reserve. But I took a risk. And when I found out we were getting our 2 autism classrooms, and I didn't even know we were getting funding for them, I split that leveling in half and bought another 0.5 special education lead teacher. That is because we have over 10% of our school's population is special education, or right around 10%, which is an average for a school. But when you have 890 kids, it's a lot more than a school that has 300 kids. We have a special education lead teacher that already definitely has his hands full. And I was very concerned about moving in 16 students with IEPs from another school with hiring 2 new teachers and 2 new pairs. So Ms. Hawthorne, we're splitting her with Dobbs Elementary. It's costing me $55,096. But the great news is we got funding for those kids, and it's going right back to them, really, because she's supporting them. That left me, and if you remember on our budget last year, I really had no money in subs. I just didn't put any in there, knowing that this was my plan, that if we hit our numbers, then I would have this $64,000, the leftover reserve, to put into our substitute budget, because I managed that too. We actually had 30,000 in there. Last year we spent over $90,000 in substitutes, which is when you have a staff of 110 and we do IB planning days and we give them days, it's not all sick days, and we give them a lot of professional learning. It just costs a lot. So I moved the rest of the reserve, the half of that 119, into our substitute budget. So long story short, now we have a sub budget that can get us through the year. We have a 0.5 CELT that can help us with our autism regional students. We earned $140,000 in leveling. 107 is getting us a new teacher. The other 37 is going into materials and supplies. And we're in good shape. If we had not hit our numbers, we would be in a very tough place. But I was confident with the work that our parent recruitment ambassadors like Ashley and Ina and everyone else who got all those kindergartners in. If we did not have 160 kindergartners, I would have been very worried. And we came right in where we were supposed to. And that's important because for the second year in a row, we're building our school back up to where it needs to be. And we have to just continue that trend. If we had come in at 80 kindergartners or 100 even, we would have been in a lot of trouble. But we didn't, and we're in good shape. So I just wanted you all to know that. Any questions around the reserve and what we did with that? I know I'm speaking fast. If you were on GOteam last year, or you remember a little bit of how we set that budget and how we I only had about $30,000 in substitutes, which would have gotten us maybe to December. But now adding the rest of that will help us get through the year.
Hey, Jay, on the slide previous, I think there might have been a math error.
Tell me.
Is 107,000, is that supposed to be plus 37,211 equals 140,000? Is that what? Okay.
Yes.
So,
that doesn't add up, does it?
Right. So it's either that we have more than 140,000 or we need less than 37.
Plus 37 equals, it should be 144. That was my fault. It was like a right
Okay,
around.
no, that's okay. I just want to make sure, because if you have to show this to anybody else.
Yeah, that's a great call out. And the actual total should be $144,211.
Okay, good news. More money.
That you're right about that. You're right. So thank you for catching that. I missed a 4, and that's going to give us a little bit more in down there is where it's going to go. So it'll give us 41. Okay, so I'm adding 4,000 more to it.
Okay.
If I understand that was my fault. I didn't do my addition right. All right. Strategic plan. This is a lot. I get it. It's posted on our website. We've worked hard on this over the last few years. A strategic plan is typically a 5-year sort of plan for our school, and it should be broken into these school priorities. These priorities, we rank them, and this is what drives our budget. I just want to draw your attention to a couple things because we're not going to focus on the strategic plan as much today, but I do encourage you, GOteam, to access this on our website and review it as it's posted. But we had subgroup goals for Black and African American students in ELA. We had them for Black and African American students in math, and we had them for our BAS-BEST or highly elevated and extremely elevated students based on that BAS-BEST survey. Okay. The goal is if we can move our lowest students and our most struggling students, the entire school will move, right? So we have a lot of different plans and goals. We can talk about this kind of probably another time. But I do want you to make sure that we note our strategic priorities. There's 11 of them, and you can just take a second to read them if you'd like to. It has to do with academic success in the first box. So that's math, science, social studies, growth, ELA, math, and special ed is big. We get a lot of credit on our school ratings are off of our subgroups. Black, Hispanic, special education, and many of them hit upon all of those subgroups. White is also a subgroup. Multiracial is a subgroup, and Asian is a subgroup for us. That means you have to have at least 15 of those students in a testing grade, and that'll count towards our school rating. So we want to make sure we include all those. Culture of support has to do with supporting academic growth for all. So you look over here, you can see those strategies, professional learning opportunities, right? Like I talked about sending teachers to trainings, enhanced IB, PYP, DLI trainings. We just sent 15 teachers to 3 days of an IB training over at E-Rivers, which was great for them. Student engagement. We have staff engagement and retention. Okay. We also notice how when we have the resources for gifted collaboration, you can see that the goal is to implement a collaborative model that's aligned to the enhanced IB PYP. We always are going to have concerns around gifted at Brandon and how it's being implemented. It's important to know that the implementation we've checked the box off with, but we need to probably continue to do better on how we're delivering gifted instruction to our students. And I know that, and I'm open to that. But we have done what IB has asked, which is remove all pullout from our school if it's not for a specialty designed instructional program like special ed or interventions. So we had to get our teachers trained up, and we have more teachers going through the cohort right now. And continue to onboard. Keep going down here. You can see content areas. You can see faculty trainings. This has to do with support. We have the strategies here. And this is our strategic plan. And we're going to work on that a little bit more this year. Okay. I can email this out to you all. It's also posted on our website. If you have any questions, let me know. I don't have a lot of room for feedback right now, but as always, feedback when we look at the new data. And even if there's any wording or anything that doesn't look right or anything like that, we can definitely tackle that because that will be coming up in our next 2 or 3 GOteam meetings. So just kind of process it now. And as you look at the data, we look at our strategic priorities and we can make adjustments as needed. Okay, so I have what's called a CIP. That's our continuous improvement plan. We have a lot of plans. I will say that. It's my feedback to kind of public education. And if we were honestly a title school, I would have a whole lot more plans with goals and strategic objectives and timelines. But right now, what guides us is, we really have 3 things that guide us as a school. One is our strategic plan, which guides our entire community and funding. We have what's called our CIP, is our continuous improvement plan. And that's what the district uses to measure us and measure our school success. And then we have our TEACS plan, which is our teacher evaluation keys and our leadership evaluation keys, which my boss sets for me and I set for our teachers. And they also have growth on there. And they're all very aligned. But but we don't ask our students to move proficiency like we ask our school to, right? I'm being held to moving literacy proficiency by 4%. That's a big gain. And we got to move our kids 4% proficient. I don't ask my teachers to do that because it's not a level playing field in our classrooms, right? We know that. We have co-taught classrooms, resource classrooms, language classrooms where students just aren't going to be proficient, at least next year, but we ask them to grow. So our teachers' goals are around what's called conditional growth indexes. You all are all very educated, and you know that a conditional growth index puts everybody on a level playing field because students are being compared to students that are just like them across the country, across 7 million students across the world, really. So we ask that they're outgrowing and outperforming students that are like them. But with a conditional growth index, if a student is already above the 90th percentile and they don't move a lot, but they still stay above the 90th percentile, we're happy with that. And it factors that in because that's important as well. Because a lot of times people will say, well, it's very hard to move a child in the 99th percentile, right? It is. There's not a whole lot more for them to go. But if they can remain over the 90th percentile, that makes us happy. And that actually doesn't affect their student growth index. It's factored into that. It's like a formula. So back to my CIP goals, I want you to just take note of this. My goals that we set for our school with my admin team and reviewed it with our superintendent and everything else had to do with literacy, numeracy, and whole child and intervention. Every school has the same 3 buckets. For number 1, we have to increase our literacy proficiency by 4%. If I could do that every year, I mean, I would win principal of the year every year. Trust me. 4% is not easy. We're talking about our proficient and distinguished students moving from where we were with last year, which was 71% proficient, and jumping up to 75% proficient. Now, I will say we did have a 4% ELA increase last year, which was awesome. We actually hit that 4%. To do it 2 years in a row is challenging, but doable. Math, our overview was to focus. By the way, this is the overview. The goals are below, so you'll see them below a little bit. It's actually 5%. I'm talking a little out of turn. The next focus had to do with math monitoring programs and standards. We had a negative 3% decrease in our proficiency last year. So we actually went from 71% proficient down to 68% proficient, I believe. I have to look. It's on there down below. And then the last one has to do with our continued whole child intervention support. So I just want you to take note of the SMART goals, and I'm just going to read them to you. This is our continuous improvement plan. By the end of FY24, all subgroups, including SWD, which is students with disabilities, Black, Hispanic, and Asian. I have to include our subgroups. Our largest subgroup is our white students, so I don't put them in there. Will increase proficiency from 71% to 76%. That's a 5% growth. This last year, we had a 4% growth in literacy. It was great. Can we do 5% again and get us back to 76%? Like I said, that's the goal. Number 2 is numeracy. By the end of FY24, all subgroups, including SWD, Black, Hispanic, and Asian, will increase proficiency from 69 to 74%. If you look up here, though, we did have a 3% decrease. So we actually are looking almost for an 8% swing from where we were 2 years ago, right? For math. And honestly, the toughest year we've ever had for math. It's a new program. It's new teachers. It's new instruction. I guess the good news is that we have phenomenal teachers, but also that every school is on the same page. I mean, we're all level this year. We're all doing the same thing. Eureka was great, but we were one of the only schools doing it. But now we all are all doing the same thing. Number 3, by the end of the school year, at least 3 out of 6 grade levels will show a reduction in extremely elevated students as measured by the BAS 3 best. We know what that is. We're about to hit the window. We take a look at all the grade levels. And we at the end of the year, we give it again. We want to see 3 out of our 6 grade levels have that reduction in our elevated and extremely elevated students. Those are students that are identified by parents, teachers, and students. The data is triaged, and they spit out to us that, hey, this child is having some emotional behavior concerns. Most of the time, we know the kids. Sometimes we don't know who the kids are. So we take those very seriously. Our counselors meet with them. Our parents fill them out as best as they can. The students fill it out in 3rd through 5th. We learn a lot from them, and our goal is to reduce those as well. Any questions around our SMART goals for our CIP? I know it's a lot of information. Trust me, if you're not in education and have to deal with this a lot, it can sound like a lot of words. I'm very cognizant of that. So please, I can answer any questions that you have if you do. So let's talk about data now. This is what people want to see. One thing I will tell you is just take note of these numbers right here. We're at 71% proficient in literacy. We're at 69% proficiency in numeracy. We know we have to have a 5% increase for both. Math is the best way for us to tell how we're reaching those goals. Definitely we have interim check-ins. Definitely we do data talks and discussions on little assessments here and there. But the 3 map windows are the most telling because they're very aligned to Georgia milestones. The one in the wintertime is the most aligned. So really speaking, how we are sitting in December and January is how we're going to be in July with our milestone scores. All right. Slide deck number 1, you're looking at math. You're looking at, this is 2nd through 5th grade. I definitely want you to pay attention to a few things. This is our overall proficiency. The first line right here, 545, that was our 2nd through 5th graders last year in the fall. And the 527 is our 2nd through 5th graders this year in the fall. It's important to note that we actually have less students in 4th and 5th grade than we did last year. So Kim, if you were asking where we lost students and where we gained them, we definitely lose students in 4th and 5th. We definitely gain them in K and 1, but since the 15th day of school, we've probably added a few more in for our upper grades. You can see that we're a little bit below proficiency where we were last year coming into the year. But one thing I like to do is sort of in your brain, filter out 2nd grade. It's actually both exams. So you're looking at literacy and math down in the bottom, but I kind of like to take 2nd grade out of it too and just look at 3rd, 4th, and 5th because they don't test. But APS would like us to look at 2nd through 5th altogether. So right now, this is 62% proficient in math, 62%. Okay, a little lower than we're anticipating. We'll take a look at our milestone scores and see where we were last year as well. Okay, last year we were 41, 51, 61, 69% proficient to start the year in math. Any questions around math, map, fall data for Morris Brandon? These schools are ranked by our cluster, in case you're curious. What I like to do is just kind of see how our like schools are doing. If you look at Warren T. Jackson, their data is very similar to ours. I know it is very grayed out, but you can see that they were at 44 and 31, and this year they're at 42 and 19. So they dropped about 19% in their proficiency as well. It's just kind of that trend that we saw across the schools. Morris Brandon is no different than any other school. Take a look at reading, much higher in reading. We have awesome literacy efforts at our school. Our teachers are teaching out the wazoo. You can see where we were last year and this year, and we actually came in at 4% higher for reading. So we are off to a great start. 33 plus 32 is 65%. 36 plus 33 is 69%. So 4% higher in reading than we were last year. Also, filter out kind of that 2nd grade, because again, that's the first time they're taking a map assessment that they actually have to take it and it's not being read to them or they're not hearing it. So their proficiency is always a little bit lower. But take a look at 5th grade, for example, 74% proficient, 73% proficient, 66% proficient in 3rd. I mean, those are all really good starting points for our 3rd through 5th grade. So that's reading. And remember what was our proficiency goal for reading? Who remembers, or where we were last year? Am I right that down? 71. Is that what it was? Yeah, 71 and I think 69. So right now we're sitting at 69%, and we can move that needle up.
Hey, Jay,
Yep.
it's just, and I think I'm just harping on it, but I just find it so fascinating that like all the other schools, the enrollment is up, and then we are the ones who had a decrease of like 20 students.
That's interesting. Our kids go to private school after 4th grade. So we always.
But I would think like Jackson would have the same kind of.
Yeah. But what you're not seeing, Kim, and you're right. These are numbers that are kind of telling a story that we don't always talk about. Our growth is in the lower grades though, and the goal is to get those 160 all the way up to 5th. But you're right.
I feel like I want to start a campaign of stay to 5th somehow.
Yeah. I don't know the narrative, and I wouldn't be able to put my finger on anything. And to be completely honest with you, I don't want to misspeak at all. But as a parent, maybe the fact that we had a lot of new teachers at Maine, potentially the fact that we had a lot of turnover last year, potentially the fact that we had 4 new 4th graders and 4 new 5th grade teachers come in. I don't know. I don't know if that scared parents, because the teachers themselves are phenomenal and I'm hearing nothing but great things about them. But at the same time, I don't know. That's a great question. Maggie?
I mean, I think historically it's been that way, right? So I wouldn't
Well,
put
sorry,
it on the
people-
teachers.
Yeah, people have to make private school decisions way before that would have ever been known. They're finding out if they're in by February, March or something. Like they have to apply by January. So I think that, yeah, we could go try to find that out, but I wouldn't try to guess it.
So one thing that I have learned about why we lose them in fifth grade for fourth rising into fifth is because there is a test, like
Yeah.
some type that they have to take
test.
going into sixth grade. And if
Yeah.
they go in at fifth grade, they don't have to take this test. And parents are trying to avoid this test, like by all means necessary.
Yeah.
It's the
Is it the
SSAT.
Yeah,
Yes.
the PSSAT. Also, I think just as a GOteam last year, we discussed the need for the smaller class size, and we, said it was because, of the behaviors and some of the things. And I think a lot of that had to do with some of the families that we lost to. It was just a lot to manage, and they were looking for a smaller class size. So hopefully the changes we made and the lower class sizes this year will help us retain some of those fourth graders to fifth.
Yeah.
They should have stayed, right, Mindy? Tell them how
That's
it's going
right.
down.
And I will tell you, all I hear, because I deal with the private schools with 504s and they have to, anyway, all I hear is that Brandon sixth graders are the best prepared students from any elementary school, including their own private schools.
Yeah.
They will take a Brandon student over any other student because they are usually so well prepared. So kudos to our
I
upper
hear
grade
that a lot
teachers.
too. I talk to a
Yeah.
lot of the registrars and they're like, oh, Brandon, we'll take, they just say stuff
Yeah.
like that, and that's good. I will tell you, Candace, you can add 10 more kids to this right now, just so you know, because they've come in. We probably have 537 to 5, to 5, closer to 540, but you're right. It's something to look at. And yeah. But
I mean, fifth grade is such an amazing year at Brand, right? So I think
it's our smallest grade level this year at 112.
it's our just, and this is not for GOteam, but just maybe I can take this up with the PTA of like making fifth grade just be this awesome year that people want to stay through. But
Jekyll Island
off topic, go ahead.
Yeah, but Jekyll was great too, getting that trip back for fifth grade. And one thing I always want to say is parents will always do what's best for their kids and what they feel like is best. And there's never any, just want to say, like, I'm never upset when parents go private. Parents always send me emails and they're so thankful and so apologetic. And I just say, people do what's best for their kids and you do what's best for your family. And I will never judge you for that. But I will also be the first one to say that public school is not for everyone. And I've learned that as a principal. And I've learned that it's okay to say that to parents as well, that sometimes this may not be the best place for you. We can always serve your child, and I would never say it in a way that we can't serve your child. But if you feel like it's not the best place, then they have, if they have options, it is what it is. I went to private school my entire life up until 10th grade, and I will never go back. And it was not a great experience for a long time. And that's why I'm so obsessed with APS and public school in my 19 years here, but I completely understand other people's decisions. But let's keep going. That's neither here nor there. I want you to take a look at our growth drill down. This is basically students that had academic growth. It's broken by reading and language arts, but it's the same data. So you only have to look at fifth, fourth, second, and third. You can see from fall to fall. These are reading, so you can actually see the difference in the grade levels here. Fifth has 112 students, by the way, right now. So that'll give you a little bit of a better one. But you can see the difference in our fourth grade cohort. And our second grade is right around this. Second grade is just, they only have the same numbers because they didn't test last year. So it's really just fourth and fifth that you're seeing, third, fourth, and fifth comparison from fall to spring. Notice our third graders, Kim, check out that grade level. You can see we actually increased a lot of students in third. So really K1, 2, 3 are moving up. 4 and 5 is sort of on their way out, if you were to say it that way. Growth, this has to do with just growth. So we're looking at achievement, and we look for students to have a growth percentile between 40 and 60. It's a little hard to understand the slide, but I would say that if you're in that green, somewhere between these two green columns, that means that you had adequate growth on your milestones, meaning you met what you were supposed to meet or you outperformed what you were supposed to do. That's basically what this slide is saying, but you may not get a ton of information around this. Fluency is important. This is kindergarten in first, and some select in second, and some select thirds. They also take a fluency assessment. Not a big deal for y'all to look at this one, but the big thing is we look at these foundational skills, most notably fluency, comprehension, phonemic and phonological awareness, some vocabulary, but this is the test that's read to them and they answer the questions. And we can see that 91% of our students have pretty strong foundational skills. That's because of pre-K. That's because of where we send our kids. And we know the most valuable time for learning is from the third month to the third grade. And it's called that P3 years, right? The primary to third grade years are the most important. And our families do an incredible job of getting early learning in for their kids. Because we do have kids that come to kindergarten for the first time or come to first grade and never been in school before, because kindergarten is not mandatory, as we know. But our students are not like that. And only 9% of our kindergarten, first, second, third are needing that foundational skill support. We don't give this to fourth and fifth, but I can tell you we have fourth and fifth graders that probably need this assessment as well, but we're not supposed to give it to them. We draw the line at some third graders. All right, let's take a look at subgroup comparison. This is powerful. You're going to see two columns. You're going to see fall last year and fall this year. Okay. Now you can see American Indian down here. By the way, this is the top one is let's see, Brandon versus district. Yes. So the top one is Brandon, and this is just math right now. The bottom one is the district. Notice how we don't have a American or Indian because we don't have 15 of those students to constitute a subgroup. But take a look at our Asian students in math. They went from 86% proficient to 93% proficient. Okay. We can see our Black students went from 39% proficient in math to 33% proficient. We can see our Hispanics went from 60 to 46. Our two or more races, 63 to 41. And even our white students, 81 to 76. All right. We pretty much dropped in every subgroup on the MAP assessment for math in the fall. Okay. That's no fault of anybody's teaching or anything along those lines. It's just to note that, we only had them for a month. So the goal is to grow them. But we also know that math is a focus of ours. This is the district down here. Okay. So if you want to see where African-American students are performing proficiency in math across the district, 14% of them are proficient in math. Take a look at reading. Okay. For some reason, I don't know why. I'm sorry, y'all. That one has a Virginia Highlands slide in there. That is not supposed to be there. I took this from a slide deck that we got from the data department. District and Virginia Highlands. This is, I'm going to have to send you the reading one. The reading looks a lot better because we did grow. This is Virginia Highland. And I know it is because they don't have any growth data from last year. So there's Virginia Highlands data if you want to see the new school and how they're performing, because it was 3 grade schools that made another grade school. But I have to get you how our subgroups performed in reading. I can just tell you, and I'll spoil it for you, that we had growth in pretty much every subgroup for reading, and we had decreasing growth for pretty much every subgroup in math. All right, here's DLI. This is a great slide, and this is MAP. This is spring, the window fall to spring. This is the test percentile right here. She showed us this. This is basically last year's how our DLI students did in MAP compared to our general students, our gen ed students. And I like this slide because, well, first of all, the top of the screen is being covered because of this Zoom thing. There we go. It's moving away now. These are all the APS DLI schools. Take a look at how we perform with proficiency in reading and DLI on average. 77% of our DLI students are on grade level reading in the spring of last year. This is right before the milestones. You might as well consider this milestone data. 77% were proficient and above. Our non-DLI classrooms in 3, 4, 5, 62.5% were proficient and above. So we have nearly a 15% swing in proficiency in our DLI versus our non-DLI classes. Take a look how it is in all the other schools. You can definitely see the benefits of DLI in Benteen, where there is a 12% increase in proficiency. You can see it in Bolton, where a 50-50 program is right around average, right around the same. You can see Brandon's huge jump. You can see Rivers DLI students are 7% more proficient. Garden Hills is 7% more proficient. Smith is 7% more proficient. And Sutton is 9% more proficient. The schools other than Brandon are two-way programs. So their students in DLI and their gen ed students are very similar, right? Their makeups are very similar. Brandon, not so much. I would never say compare our DLI classes with our gen ed just because we're one way. And I know that our ethnicities are swayed a little bit more non-diverse in DLI, but we do have we have the largest proficiency and the largest gap between DLI and non-DLI. And then you can see it down here. These are growth percentiles. And you can see that our DLI students are growing exponentially on average, a 58.2. 40 to 60 is average. 60 is like high average. And we're right around that. And our DLI students are outperforming students that are just like them across 7 million students. Long story short, DLI is working. The data is here. The students are growing. They're learning. They're outpacing their gen ed classrooms, but mostly in the other schools. And we just know how strong our DLI students and teachers are at Brandon. Any questions around this? Yes.
I have a question about, so the new EIP teacher, did you say was going to support DLI?
Yes, and the reason being is because we are getting a few more Hispanic students in our DLI classes, and those Hispanic students have to get pulled out in the morning for DLI, for intervention supports, because they are struggling a little bit more. And then because they also hit the bucket of language learner, we have to serve them as well. And the DLI teachers, and I love them, but they are advocating for their students' time. So primarily 4th and 5th graders saying, stop pulling the kid out of my class. I need him in here. It's not helping them. So what we're going to do is have this intervention teacher who is also an ESOL certified teacher just push into the class and provide push-in support so those kids don't have to get pulled out. And Miss Stansberry and Miss Moorhart and Estrada and Chavez can do what they want to do with those kids and do it the best way they can with them in a classroom and not pulled out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So are the non-DLI kids getting an equal amount of time for the intervention? I'm just wondering about that gap. It seems like we need more support.
And I want to say this
too. Go ahead, Maggie.
Quickly, Jay, you did acknowledge that the student is there's a selection bias, right? Like if you're the type of person who's like, we really think we're going to do great in DLI and we're going to make the application. It's just, there's a selection bias going into it. But also if you look at 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, the DLI classes last year were almost half the size of the other 4th and 5th grade classes. So there's a lot of stories behind this data right now.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So it sounds great. That I do think it's good that we're going to be supporting the English language learners that are in there. But I would just take the data with a grain of salt, because there's a lot more behind it that you just can't capture.
Yeah.
With
okay. Yeah, and that's you asked about intervention for our DLI students. The majority of them, and I'm confident in saying over 90% of them qualify for extensions or interventions in Spanish. They're not going pulled out to tier 2, tier 3 math and reading where they have to get on intervention programs and be progress monitored necessarily. So our DLI students also get intervention, but it's in the form of Spanish intervention in class, but also extensions, because it's also an extension time where they can work on gifted work, or we do some small gifted pull out during that time. And Miss Park has also been added to the DLI teaching roster. So she does teach all those DLI students every day for 30 to 45 minutes and does a lot of Spanish interventions with them as well. So, all right, let me keep rolling.
And, Jay, I think it's great that we are going to provide some ESOL support too with those kiddos, because I know, being one of the teachers that has some ESOL students in DLI program, like they are being pulled for 45 minutes daily. So it is a large chunk of instructional time outside of the classroom, which is, obviously great support, but it's nice to be able to have them back in the classroom some as well.
Yeah, we have to be able to serve our native Spanish speaking students in a DLI model that works for them, and getting them pulled out for so much time every day, it wasn't working, and they're just not kind of getting it all. So the push in will definitely help. Test percentiles. Growth percentiles, fall to spring, just kind of another one. This is this is basically the same data again, but our DLI students are in the 77th percentile, like on average. Okay, you can see, APS loves the Morris Brandon DLI program for this data reason, just so you know. I mean, we love it too. I think it's great for kids, but when Margaret and the department are able to pull this and aggregate DLI data, you can see that gap. I mean, there's no other school that even has, even Gen Ed is close to 77th percentile on average. And this is growth percentiles. There's 55.2% of our students are outgrowing students that are like them. Garden Hills did a great job all across their school last year, primarily with math. But our students in DLI are just achieving academically. They're growing. They have high percentiles. So I wanted you to see the slides. It speaks to
non-DLI students also getting everything that DLI kids are, so we can help get their scores up too?
They are, and that's partially why we have our strategic plan and our CIP goals. They are getting it all and probably a little more. And one of the things that we talked about last year was all the stuff we're giving to our gen ed students, like smaller class sizes, and giving them an opportunity to be in a classroom of not 27 people. The DLI parents also said, well, what are we getting? And that's what we came across with our language lab teacher, with Miss Park, who's able to provide Spanish interventions, because our DLI data was not great for speaking in our stamp testing necessarily. So they also have other measurements for DLI. But yes, I mean, that's the goal, to make sure that all students are getting what they need to be successful, as evident by this right here, right? Our mission, our vision. We need to make sure that every student gets what they need to be successful lifelong learners. So I always pull it back to that. So you make a great point, Ashley, and that's our goal at Morris Brandon as a Go team, to make sure that's happening. All right, let's keep going. Milestone results. Nobody's ever seen these. These are our school-wide data. You can see the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 schools. There's 64 schools in APS, and we're number 6, I guess. And you can see our milestone comparisons. The top is reading. The bottom is math. This is all students in grades 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So here's our proficiency. We already knew that. It was right around 71%. We knew that. And here's our proficiency down here, and we were right around 69%. Those are the correct data points. And we have to grow by 5%. So all that map, all that all that subgroup data, all comes down to literally just these 2 dashboards. Okay. It's important to note that a lot of the red students, if I could tell you every one of them, and honestly, the bulk of them have IEPs. The bulk of them are special education students. And it's difficult because special education students, and many of them, because of the manifestations of their disability, are not able to be proficient. They're just not. They're not going to get to proficiency, many of them. So we really look at their growth percentiles, and that's why our teachers are being held to growing students, because a student in the first percentile should be able to, at Brandon, should be able to outgrow a student at another school that's also in the first percentile. And we just want to see them do better than those students. Also, many of our red students are subgroup students, or students that are not our largest subgroup of white students. So I call them student groups and so forth. You can see math on the bottom. By the way, this is the district average. Okay, up top and right here, ELA and math. What do you notice? What are your wonderings? What additional questions do you have? I've got 9 minutes. I'm happy to type. Whoops. I can exit out of the screen and just type a few wonderings in here. So I'm going to stop sharing, but let me review this really quickly. These are from our CIP. I had to list some glows and grows from a lot of different data sources. So I just wanted you to see where we came from last year. We had a 4.1% increase in ELA on the end of grade. If you don't understand an acronym, please, we are all so guilty in education of using too many acronyms. So if I'm just throwing them out there, like, tell me, what does ESOL mean? That's an English speaker of the languages. Somebody's learning English. So ask me what those are. EOG is end of grade. 6% increase in proficiency in ELA for Black and African American students. We moved them 6% last year, which was awesome. We had a 2% decrease of 5 students in extremely elevated students on the BAS3 best. That is not an easy thing to do. To move 5 students from, hey, we're very elevated, to now to normal is a lot of work, but I consider that a glow. And we had a 3% increase in the normal range on best. So we actually, when we decreased those 5, we increased our normal range. So from 82 to 85% now. So 85% of our students are in the normal range. Grows 3.3% decrease in proficiency in math. Grows mean, like, what can we do better? 7.7% decrease in proficiency in math for Black African American students. So while they grew here, they didn't grow there. 12% decrease in math for Hispanic students. 14.6% decrease in proficiency in math for Asian and Island Pacificers. Those are our subgroups. So you can see the trend here, right? ELA, great, continue to be great. Math took a dip. I'm going to exit out of this because I can type in it when I'm not sharing. And I'm going to start with the glows. And I don't want to rush everybody off. But if anybody just wants to shout out a glow they have, I'm happy to type it in there. And then when we post it on our website, people will see. So I'm listening if you want. And if we want to do it a little separately and do it via email, and I get it together that way, we can do that. Anybody have any glows they want to share? Okay, good. That's all right. Anybody have any grows they see? Well, I think we discussed it all, but if there's anything you want me to add, I can.
Jay, do you have that chart for math?
You want me to go back to it?
No, like the number 17, slide 17. Do you have that for math?
Yes, I do. And that was, yes, I'm looking right now. Hold on. That was actually the second one.
Oh.
The first one was English. The second one was math. Do you want me to go back to it again and share it real quick?
No. I just thought it was reading. I thought both of them were reading.
Which is
No, you don't have to show it. Don't worry. I just didn't
Okay.
know one was reading and one was math.
My computer literally. Okay. I'm onto my my laptop. You guys can all hear me and everything. All right. Let me
I don't know if this counts as a glow, but I'm glad that we
back right here.
that
Go
we
ahead,
had
Maggie. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know if this counts as a glow or not, but I'm glad that we had the discussion and made the decision last year to ensure that we had smaller class sizes and more consistent class sizes across DLI and non-DLI in the upper grades specifically. I think that the data, I think there's a lot, there's a lot of factors. So I think it's, it's a complicated issue, but I think that the data really supports that decision. And I hope that we will kind of make sure that we are always, I think that the DLI parents do an amazing job of advocating for their students. And I think as a GOteam, we need to make sure that we're also always advocating for all the students, especially where the data suggests that we need to. And so I'm kind of hoping that we can continue to prioritize anywhere where we see something working for some kids, make sure we're giving it to all the kids.
Yeah, I like that, Maggie.
I agree. And I think that's our goal because we have to make sure that everybody gets a piece of the bucket. We know our focus, there's, equity, right? We all know what equity is. It's a term that is used very loosely and there's a lot of confusion around it potentially in many areas and in APS. But at Morris Brandon, in my opinion, and the work that we've done, it's very clear that our goal is to give every student what they need to be successful. So that may be our DLI students having a certified Spanish language lab teacher that can help increase their speaking proficiency. It can be our Black and African American students that are struggling with math and reading and need an additional teacher to support pullout. And it can be all of our students getting additional grade level teachers to help reduce class sizes. It can be our autism students by earning another 0.5 special education lead teacher to help support them. And I can go on and on. Are we hitting every single bucket? Maybe not. And there may be some gaps of student groups that we need to help support a little bit more, but that's where GOteam and the data piece comes in. So thank you for that, Maggie. I do have one glow as the decrease in class size for pre-K to 5. Again, if you guys have any glows or grows, I'm going to send this PowerPoint out again tomorrow. Just look through it and then just send me your feedback and I'll type it in. Go ahead, Maggie.
I saw that this is gonna go out to the parents soon about a math night. Where we're gonna talk to the families about the new standards. But when I saw that and just looking at this data right here, where math is a big grow area for us, I student taught at a school where they actually had a math night where parents and kids came, and there was like guided it
Yeah,
was like
they do a lot of schools do math nights. If you're a STEAM school, you have to do some type of science and math night. So they
where
do.
where they do like activities with the families that they can take with them to do at home, like games or stuff like that. Is that what they do at the other
Yeah,
school?
exactly. And Morningside does a family science night, and they do. If you're a STEAM signature program, that has to be part of your plan. So all those schools do that. If you look at
Maybe we could talk to one of those schools and say, since you guys already know how to run these, could you just come and run a math night for us, especially if somebody's wanting to kind of step into more of a space where they're getting experience doing that, maybe like a leadership opportunity. And then maybe we could just provide services like that to our family, because if we've got areas like this that the whole school needs to work on, let's partner with the parents. And I know our families, they want to grow their kids. And so we have families show up and we have events. We all remember bingo night. Okay. Like people want to come and do stuff together. So let's do it that supports learning as well as has fun. And if we could come up with some math games and things that they could do at home too, why
That's
not?
awesome. I completely agree. And I actually really appreciate you volunteering to organize that too, Maggie. I'm just kidding. Maggie told me a while ago, she's done jumping on committees. GOteam is her last one because she does so much for me. But no, I'm just kidding. I love that idea. I really do. And if you honestly, I didn't show the math data of the Midtown cluster, but they do incredibly well in math and science. They really do. And it's because of how it's embedded throughout. Now this year, I'm actually really interested and excited to see, as we all have the same math program and we're all doing Georgia DOE and Envisions. So I'm curious to see how it goes. I know our teachers are doing a really good job, and it's a struggle of creating the math units and kind of recreating them and doing the number talks and creating slides and teaching our students like reverse gradual release, like giving them problems and having them struggle at the beginning as opposed to the end. And it's a shift, but I'm excited to kind of see where that goes. For the sake of time, though, let me just keep going, and I'm going to share my screen one more time, and then we'll close it out. So I'll send this out. You guys can give me feedback. We're here. We're utilizing current data. The GOteam will review and possibly update the strategic priorities, which we can do at our next meeting. So I'm going to give you some pre-work before that. And then before the winter break, we're going to take action and rank our strategic priorities. We can update those and we can rank those. And that's going to be probably most of the work that we're going to do in October, November. And that's it. I gave you guys a chance to ask questions the whole time. But yes, Kim, go ahead.
No, is that it for the meeting? Because you still need to do a staffing update on our agenda.
Oh, you're right. Thank you. I don't have that in my slide, but let me just give you a staffing update. Okay, so let me just give you a staffing update. We're fully staffed. We're fantastic with that, with the exception of one position that just didn't really pan out from the start, and that's our main campus art position. So I will tell you that we interviewed and we are ready to make a recommendation for hire tomorrow, most likely, for our new main campus art. And I will tell you, I'm very excited about this person, and I'm excited to tell you a little bit about her once everything has been processed, but I have to hold on that right now. Next, we did, that was the only other, that was our only full-time vacancy. Just so everybody knows, we've had a great long-term sub in there, and then we also have, come in. Sorry, my hold on a second. Just start changing. Do it over there. But then we also have a vacant kindergarten para position that we're hiring, and we also have a special education para position we're hiring. Those two are paras. They're not counting as an FTE or a full-time staff member, so they don't actually count as a vacancy on a document. But we are still hiring. The biggest one for me was the main campus art and the intervention teacher that we earned. And I'm telling you, we are so lucky to find the person we have for this intervention position, because you don't find people 4 weeks into a school year that are ready to come into a school and have these skill sets and are ready to learn. And I mean, you just don't, because all the good people are working, but we got very lucky with this. And I will tell you that I'm excited to share some information about her as well. I just have to wait till it's all done, but she is a Morris Brandon parent. I'll put it at that. But the skill set she have is unbelievable to have at this time. So I'm hiring for art, which should be done by tomorrow. The issue with art is this person is occupying a position at another school at a lower pay grade. So it is a promotion. And when you do promotions in APS, the typical rule is that you can't move that person until the old position has been filled. But I've worked it out with the principal that we can have this person on October 2nd. So we just have to get through the months of September and we should be good to go starting October 2nd with our new art teacher. My EIP teacher that we just recommended for hire should be good to go by September 25th. And now that leaves us a kindergarten para and a special ed para. Okay. Sorry about that. I should have had a slide for that. All right.
Am I
Go ahead.
supposed to ask if anyone else has any announcements?
Yeah, good.
I can announce that the next meeting is October 19th. So want to make sure everyone has that on their calendar.
Ashley, thank you for going to the security meeting.
Yeah, sure. Did everyone get my notes on that? Does anyone not get them? I'm happy to resend them to anyone.
I did. Those were great notes. They were great notes. And I had follow-ups with Keith Sumas afterwards, who was the emergency preparedness coordinator, and a couple parents as well. And for those that don't know, I was in a car accident that night. Everything is fine. I am okay. I was driving to the event, going 40 miles an hour down Peachtree, and an old gentleman who was 85 years old pulled out right in front of me and just did not decide to stop and hit the whole side of my car. It's been in the shop. I had to wait for the officer. I had to do the whole thing. And I couldn't drive it because he took my tire out. So, and then I couldn't change the tire because it had been, the suspension got messed up. So the tire, I couldn't get it on there. So it was just a bad night altogether when I should have been there, but I just wanted people to know that, but I'm totally fine. Everything's fine.
Opposite of safety.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the Smith people had matching teeth, so next time we need to bring some matching Brandon shirts.
There's a video, and I posted it in the B-mail as well if people want to watch it. So it's all recorded and posted.
Yeah. I think between the teachers on here, I think we could get everybody enough t-shirts. Maybe visors and water bottles and umbrellas and boxes. We could really show them.
Yeah. Full spirit.
Yeah.
So next meeting, the 19th at 3:30. I believe that's on Zoom again. And I think we've reached the end of our agenda. Is there any other additional business at this time? Anyone?
I'll just throw in a nice work, Ashley. Nice work, Ashley, on your first official meeting leading us.
Well done, Ashley. Well done.
I have my script here, so thanks for the confidence. So may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
All right, Thomas made the motion. A second?
I second that motion.
All right, thanks, Ina. All in favor, please raise your hand to adjourn the meeting. All right.
Bye, everyone. Appreciate you guys. I'm going to end it out. See you later.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Thanks, everybody.